I already handed them out.
All right, I think we're all here. We'll adjourn the Board of Education closed session and reconvene the open session at 7:03. We're going to have Monroe come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Lily Jarvis, and I'm the principal at Monroe. And it is my pleasure to introduce Ella Andrews, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ella Andrews is a fifth grader, a product of our dual immersion program, a member of our Renaissance team, and today she found out that she will represent our school in the Monrovia Elementary Olympic Games. And Mayflower, watch out, we're taking that trophy back. Personally, I'd like to say that as a leader in this community, I'm very proud that this young lady, along with all of her fifth grade classmates, will conclude their elementary school life in just a few months, and the amazing and unique educational program that is offered at Monroe, along with Clifton, and next year at the high school, has planned for her and will challenge her and her classmates, and I'm very, very proud of that. This pathway, this unique opportunity for students, has been built and provides children with specialized opportunities not available to all kids. And I want to say that this is not possible unless there's passionate and committed members in our community, like the Board of Education, our superintendent, our cabinet, our administrators, and I want to thank you all for that.
Please stand. Place your right hand over the heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remain standing. Now in Español. Yo juro lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios indivisible con libertad y justicia para todos. You may sit down.
Yeah, let's get a photo.
So distracted by our little guy. The little guy's carrying the whole way down. Great job. Good seeing you.
Ladies, you all get the front row.
Nope, there we go. Sorry.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Monroe, Dr. Jarvis. Roll call, we're all present except for Sue Kaiser, who is excused for illness this evening. We have Jared Cupp with us from Canyon Oaks Mountain Park, so welcome. In the closed session this evening, we discussed employee discipline, dismissal, release. We discussed some potential litigation and took no action in that meeting. Under order of business, do we have any changes?
We do not.
All right. Can I get a motion to move the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Ms. Huff, please take the vote.
Board Member Wong,
Yes.
Board Member Lockerbie,
Yes.
Board Member Travanti,
Yes.
Board Member Hammond,
Yes.
Board President Gilliland.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, thank you. Moving on to recognition and communications. We want to congratulate PTA of Plymouth on a successful Lunar New Year celebration. I heard so much about this, I was unable to be there, but I heard it was just great. So we're going to have a little discussion and picture taking. And
Actually, I'd like for Ms. Wu to talk about it. This was truly a full school event, and so while we began with a recognition of the PTA spearheading it, we also wanted to recognize the teachers involved, and we have Dr. Giroux here, who will share just a little bit more.
Good evening, board members, and district cabinet members and esteemed guests. I'm Dr. Greg Giroux. It's an honor to serve as the principal at Plymouth Elementary School. I'm also here with our board president, Mrs. Katie Hawley. If you'll come join me. Our whole PTA is so important to our school, but I want to make sure that we recognize our board president as well. So it's my great pleasure to speak about one of our amazing events and celebrate the hard work, the dedication, and the infectious spirit of our PTA. On the evening of February 8th, Plymouth celebrated the Lunar New Year with a spectacular family event featuring amazing performances, inspiring artwork, fun-filled crafts, and of course, delicious food. Our school was transformed into a magical world with red and gold lights, fire-breathing dragons, Chinese lanterns, and bright orange pagodas. Students dressed in traditional Chinese clothing and captivated families and friends with songs, dances, and skits. One of the truly special aspects of this event was the underlying community spirit. There was a palpable feeling of unity and collaboration amongst our entire Plymouth community. Families from both our Mandarin Dual Immersion and our English program made substantial contributions to the show. Celebrating diverse cultures and traditions through the arts is something our whole school community embraces, and this was highly evident at the Lunar New Year Family Night. Although amazing PTA family events are becoming the standard at Plymouth, we know how much time and energy is required to make these events so successful. And we are incredibly fortunate to have such a strong, committed, and resourceful PTA at Plymouth. And they make such a difference in the quality of our school. This was truly a team effort with support from a large number of parent volunteers, teachers, and staff. We are also grateful to our Chief Business Officer, Connie Wu, who also served as our Chinese media correspondent and helped to host the event. There were 3 people in particular who were behind the success of this event. Serving as chairpersons for the Lunar New Year Family Night were 3 of our PTA board members, and they're here tonight. Miss Caitlin Mui, if you'll come on up, thank you. Katie Kwok. And Irene Evangelista. These amazing women planned every detail and coordinated with dozens of volunteers to make sure everything went according to plan. I also want to recognize our teachers who volunteered their time and their talents to put together student performances, and some have been able to make it here. Mrs. Lisa Dawes, Mrs. Carol Shea, Miss Shannon Varner, Mr. Steve Cook, and we also had a performance from a group of our students from the After School Village program, and their teacher is here tonight, Jennifer Lindy. And so many of our teachers also worked with their students to provide the artwork that transformed our cafeteria. Events like the Lunar New Year Family Night are so important for our school. It's a true manifestation of 21st century learning. Our students learned about and celebrated our diverse global society. They integrated art, culture, and language into their learning, and they communicated their learning through authentic performances. And just as important, it brought together our entire community and harnessed the energy we need to provide our students with a world-class education. My heartfelt thanks to our PTA. Thank you.
I think as a parent at Plymouth, I really appreciate the program, and I really appreciate the district for bringing this program so that our children can gain a new skill. Not only do they learn coding, which and then Mandarin, and then of course English. It's like 3 different languages that they're learning. We are really appreciative of that, and so because we see the energy of the teachers, a lot of our parents here also want to give back and provide more opportunities for everyone at the school. And so we're all very excited about this. And I really want to thank all of the parents who put so much time and all of the teachers for their dedication.
For our picture, if we can bring our other PTA members up just because for your support for this event as well. Come on up.
I was actually asked to kind of share a personal testimony about my experience as a parent. First of all, I'm very privileged to be in the PTA and helping out with this event. It's really like a family to me, and I really appreciate everyone, all the volunteers, all the teachers, the support of the principals, the staff. I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that the event turned out to be pretty good. And I also, want to share my experience because I actually live in Arcadia, and Chinese is so important to our family and to our heritage as Chinese. I started taking forcing my son to go to Chinese school, and it's once a week. He's been going since kindergarten. Now, back then, there's no dual immersion program. When I found out about the Plymouth School dual immersion program, I had my daughter there. She started going there last year as a TK. And I want to say by this year, her Chinese has accelerated so much. It's really caught up to my son's level, and my son's sitting there, so I don't want to say too much about that. But I'm really appreciative of the program, and that's why I'm pouring my heart and soul into this program, and I hope that a lot of people would know about it. I share my testimony with the Chinese online media, and I was asked to share that testimony so that you all know how wonderful of a program it really is. So.
All of the board members. Okay.
Thank you so much. So many people work so hard in this district, and it's always a pleasure to meet some that are working extra special hard. Thank you. Moving on to board member reports. Ms. Lockerbie, I understand you have a report.
Just briefly wanted to let the board know that we are working closely with MAFA, Monrovia Association of Fine Arts, and we've had a few meetings that have included Sue Kaiser and Mr. Patrick Garcia and myself to facilitate moving arts more into our into all of our schools.
Thank you. Mr. Vante.
Thank you, President Gilliland. On Friday, February 22nd, I attended Clifton's MTV Awards, which stands for Motivational Team Victories, where 100+ students were recognized for 4.0 GPAs. In addition, students were recognized for perseverance, ambition, kindness, sportsmanship, and CPR, which stands for courteous, polite, and respectful. The assembly is full of energy and good vibes. Shout out to Jennifer Jackson and Courtney Glass, as well as Renaissance mentor Danny Ray, and all the Renaissance students who worked so hard to organize and promote this activity. So it was a great time, lots of energy in the room, and it was just fun to be there. On March 9th, Monrovia High School will be hosting 49 robotic teams from all over Southern California, and they'll be convening on our high school. Right, Mr. McGinnis? That's right. So Monrovia Unified will be well represented with 5 teams that advance to the regional playoffs. 4 teams from the high school and 1 team from Clifton Middle School. The public is more than welcome to attend. Come and cheer on our teams. And yours truly will be in a yellow vest and queuing all day, so I'll be there volunteering. And so come out. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one big shout out to Clifton. We had our boardwalk with them this week, and appreciate the staff for all the work that went into it, the administration for making it a great day of letting the board take a look at what goes on, and especially to the teachers and students who were able to ignore us and get some work done while we observed what was going on. So that's always so valuable for us as board members, and thanks so much. Moving on to the report from our student board member, Jared.
It's good evening, President Gilliland, members of the board, Dr. Thorosian, and cabinet. I am pleased to report about the opportunity that 3 of our female students had to attend the 3rd annual Future of Women in STEM conference at the Los Angeles County Arboretum and Botanic Garden in Arcadia 2 weeks ago. It's Rebecca Laufer, Miranda Montes, and Alexis Williams all enjoyed the afternoon with Mr. McKendrick and their counselors as they learned from several STEM ambassadors who are scientists, coders, as architects, engineers, and mathematicians. The ladies were both impressed and inspired. On behalf of the girls, I would like to thank Dr. Kaiser for making this opportunity available to our students. We also had the opportunity on Wednesday, Friday 13th, to go on a field trip with Mr. Daniel Chacon's drama class. We rode the Gold Line to the Amundsen Theater in downtown Los Angeles to watch a dance-only interpretation of the Cinderella story set in Europe during World War II. It was a very memorable experience for us all, and we can't wait to see the next production in the month of March, made possible for students like us by the Center Theater Group. And lastly, as this Friday, we plan to host our board members at Canyon Oaks High School and Mountain Park School for a tour of our schools. We anxiously await their visit Friday morning. That is all I have to report for tonight. Thank you so much for all that you do for our schools and our community.
Thank you. We're looking forward to Friday also, and hope we don't interrupt too much. All right, moving on to our superintendent, Dr. Therosian.
Thank you, President Gilliland, members of the board. We do have Principal Jackson as well as Assistant Principal Glass here from Clifton Middle School to do a brief recap of the visit to Clifton Middle School, and I'd like to invite them up to give us their presentation and really celebrate some of the wonderful things happening at Clifton.
Good evening, Board of Education, District Administration, and Monrovia community. It is an honor to be here tonight to share the wonderful and amazing things happening on our school campus. And to start that, I'm going to let Courtney Glass go over some generic demographic information and some information about our test scores. Courtney Glass.
First of all, Ms. Travanti, thank you for that. But Mrs. Jackson and I do nothing with that rally. That is all Mr. Danny Ray. So just to be clear, we get no credit for that. That's all Mr. Ray. So our first bit of data here, we have our demographic data. So you can see kind of who we are as a group. A couple of those pieces board that you asked for on Friday are included there, or excuse me, on Monday are included there. When we collected this data, we noticed that it has changed over time. Students with disabilities has gone up. Our English learner population has gone up. Our GATE population has gone down a little bit. Some of the data has remained fairly similar, but it is changing as we look over the course of time. Does anybody have any questions? Just keep rolling. Yes, ma'am. Here's our ELA data. You have, this is our CASP, our state scores, formerly known as our SBAC scores that we give in the spring. That will be coming up after spring break. And these are our comparisons. Last year you have each grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and you have how we compare to Los Angeles County, which is the dark blue in the middle, and orange is the state of California, and then the light blue one on the left is Clifton, and that's each grade, 6th grade on the left going over to 8th grade on the right. And you can see we are outperforming both the county and the state. And in math, you will see similar, same data. The numbers are lower across the board, both for us and for the county and for the state. But you can see once again we are outperforming the county and the state. And now I'll turn it back over to Mrs. Jackson.
In an effort to address our grow areas with regard to our CASP scores in the areas of English and math, our staff came together and came up with this instructional focus that really places emphasis on the critical thinking and the writing aspects of what is needed in all curricular areas on our campus. And while that does say that it's measured by CASP and common assessments, which is a very broad way to explain that, there are lots of things that layer underneath this so that we can make determinations along the way if we are making progress. So there's a lot of work, basically all of the academic work that's happening at Clifton surrounds this instructional focus and is known to both staff and students in everything that we do. So to break that down further, we have 3 signature practices that align to that, which again are all about the critical thinking and the writing across the curriculum. So we have productive student collaboration, Cub writing, which stands for create a claim, use evidence, and back it up. And then higher order questioning, which is depth of knowledge questioning level 3. And every department on campus has basically determined what these three things look like within their subject matter. And this happens in every department, including electives and physical education. We also have 6 unique programs that are unique to Clifton that set us apart from other middle schools. We, of course, are a Spanish dual immersion school. We have our Renaissance leadership class that is in charge of really tapping into the culture and climate of our school community. Our AVID elective program, helping get students the tools necessary to enter the pathway to college. Our STEM elective offerings, both at the introductory and advanced levels. Multi-tiered intervention supports, that's both on the behavioral and the academic side. And then our brand new Olveus anti-bullying program, which is in year 1. So on the right-hand side, we definitely have had a journey that we're proud of over the past 8 years at Clifton, which began with our journey to becoming being redesignated as a distinguished school, then earning the gold ribbon status, and then finally the icing on the cake was becoming a 2017 Schools to Watch school. So believe it or not, we are reaching almost the end of our 3rd year. In order to keep that designation, we have to reapply. Otherwise, that title is stripped of us. So we will be working in the coming year to work through that process of redesignation, which for those of you who don't know what that is, it truly is a self-study, a miniature self-study, much like Monrovia High School's WASC accreditation that they are going through at this time. And down on the left there is a picture of Aaron Gruwell and I. We were honored on Valentine's Day to have Aaron, the real teacher from the movie Freedom Riders, conduct a school-wide assembly to talk to our kids about persevering and making sure that just because of the cards they've been dealt and the circumstances they're dealing with do not predict the success of their future. Our students were moved by the experience, as were our staff, and she has extended herself to continue to reach out to Monrovia schools because of a very special connection, and we are grateful for that opportunity. We also want everyone to know that on March 20th, in addition to our open house showcase, we will be also hosting our 5th grade parents to let them enter into the world of middle school and understand what this whole world is about. We will have food trucks and celebrations and performances and classroom visits. So this is an open invite to the entire community to, on that evening, 5:30 is 5th grade parent night, 6 o'clock begin the festivities in the auditorium at Clifton. And we welcome all of you to join us. We'd like to thank all of you, the Board of Education, for coming to our campus this week. We really feel that we are working as a team to make sure that we are giving every child at our school the opportunity to connect in some way so that they are on that pathway to be successful in high school and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Jackson. All right, we'll continue with your report.
Well, first, before Principal Jackson and Assistant Principal Glassleaf, thank you again for being such gracious hosts.
Thank you.
We have with us today an item in consent that I'd like to leave in consent but call attention to because we have a special guest in the audience. Christy Lopez from Senator Portantino's office is in the audience, and in consent, ideally, we will be approving a donation from the Senator's office to our village program. And so, Ms. Lopez, could you share with us a few words about that item under consideration?
Hi, thank you. Firstly, I wanted to say I'm not sure if you all saw me run out just a second ago. That was a call that I got from the senator asking me, hey, so what are you doing tonight? I said, well, I'm at the board meeting about to donate some books. And so he says, oh, well, you should go back in there. I said, yes, I probably should. But at any rate, he does send his regards. So with that, I'm going to now talk from my prepared remarks. Good evening, board president, vice president, board clerk, board members, superintendent, district staff, those those of you present in the chamber with us this evening and those of you watching at home. My name is Christy Lopez, and I'm the district representative for State Senator Anthony Portantino, and I have the pleasure of staffing the city of Monrovia on the senator's behalf. The reason for my visit this evening is to donate about 100 books to the Village Extended School Program. These books were collected during our senator's holiday party. The senator learned about the Village program last year when he took a tour of the Monroe's program. The tour cemented what we already know. Before and after school programs improve students' academic success. Two exceptional young ladies led the senator on this tour. At the conclusion of this tour, they asked the senator to support a bill that would provide more funding for the after-school education and safety program. His response, you might ask, was, well, why don't we work with that particular senator to see if we can get you that funding? The senator then flew these two young ladies up to Sacramento to testify in front of the budget hearing. After the budget hearing, Senator Portantino, as chair of the Budget and Fiscal Review Subcommittee Number 1 on Education Finance, was able to insert $50 million into the budget, that's 2016-2017 budget for the after-school education and safety program. The senator will continue to work on educational issues while in Sacramento. Before I do the official handoff, I just wanted to state to the board that it is an absolute pleasure working with your staff. I have a great working relationship with not only just Tom from the Village program, but also Ms. Huff. And so I would just like to publicly state that it is a pleasure working with them, and I hope to continue that working relationship. It is now my honor to present over to the Village program some of the books. The other, I don't know, 90-something books. The others are actually already in his car, so it is my honor and pleasure to present these books to the board as well as to the Village program, and hope that they will be put to good use, which I'm sure that they will be. So on behalf of Senator Anthony Portantino, I would like to donate these books that we collected at our holiday party for your after-school program.
Thank you.
So,
I would just like to say that we obviously will be appreciative of the gift and the donation of these books. We have had a really great working relationship with the senator's office, and for after-school programs that are supported by the ACES grant up and down the state, Monrovia is definitely on the map because it was these two young ladies from Monroe Middle School, Monroe Elementary, that was instrumental in getting us this rate in all the programs up and down the state. So they all point to Monrovia as a leadership in that in terms of Senator Portantino's support. So we definitely will take you up on the offer to take these books. I will beat everyone out to the car so no one else can grab them before we get them out to the kids. But again, thank you so much for your support. And I speak on behalf of our district that we appreciate all that you do for our program and all the programs you support. So thank you for that.
Mr. Wong?
Yes, I just wanted to let people know, I mean, Anthony, the senator, has really stepped up in a meaningful way that has had an impact on our children in this district. Not just with these books, but with the funding of the Village program has made a huge, huge difference. And it's one thing to talk a game, and it's another thing to step up. So I just wanted to say thank you very much.
I will communicate that to the senator on your behalf, sir.
Thank you.
We should.
We should do a picture.
That way you have photographic evidence that you were here.
Oh, that's mine.
This is a coveted, we in the office were
Pretty much maxed out right here.
Monster Mouse?
You should go in the middle. Yeah.
And to conclude my report, I'd like to present. A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to attend a conference sponsored by the California Association of Latino Superintendents and Administrators. And not only did they pay for my attendance to the conference, they provided me with a scholarship for one of our students. And I'm pleased that Mr. McInnes is here, and I will hand this copy of the check to him. It's a $250 scholarship for one of our seniors. So my time was definitely well spent that week.
Finally, thank you. That was a great report. Always good to see Clifton, and especially they put that symbol up there. And Jen didn't say too much about it, but you know, the Schools to Watch is a nationwide program. And so while the Distinguished School and the Gold Ribbon Awards are terrific because Clifton is one of the best middle schools in California, but the Schools to Watch means Clifton's one of the best in the nation. So thanks for that report. All right, moving on to public comments. We invite everyone to share their thoughts, and we really ask for the input. If you want to speak to the board and haven't done so, please fill out a form and give it to Ms. Huff here on the end. And we will move on to public comments for items that are not on the agenda. Now, in compliance with the Brown Act, items not on the agenda legally cannot be discussed by the board. We will welcome your input. They can't be discussed at this meeting tonight. We will welcome your input, but are limited to asking clarifying questions, gathering contact information. If any items require a board discussion or action, it'll have to be calendared in the future so that all interested parties might attend. Are there any speakers?
There are none.
All right, then we will move on to public comments for items on the open session agenda. Any comments?
There are none.
With that, then we'll move on to our informational reports. And since Dr. Kaiser is not feeling well tonight, Dr. Therosian, would you let us know about the early college update?
I am delighted to be able to share this report with you. A couple of years ago, we entered into a partnership with Citrus College, a more formal level of partnership with Citrus College, and began our first cohort of students in the early college program. We have with us today Principal McInnes, Dr. Real, our Director of Counseling, College, and Career, and from Citrus College, we have Dr. Eric Rabatoy. I'd like to invite them to present the report because really, while we don't shirk from the bad news, it's always nice to celebrate the good news.
Thank you. Good evening, President Gilliland, members of the board, Dr. Therosian, cabinet, community members. My name is Kirk McGinnis. I'm the principal of Monrovia High School, and I will gladly accept that check on behalf of your your learning opportunity and extend that to one of our most deserving students this year at Monrovia High School. Dr. Therosian is accurate. About 2.5 years ago, we solidified our partnership with Citrus College, and we were able to begin an outstanding opportunity for our students. For the general interest, we are providing a dual enrollment opportunity for our students. These are Monrovia High School students that are on our campus taking Monrovia High School, Monrovia Unified classes, while at the same time taking Citrus College courses. We package classes together that are in their best interest. They meet transfer requirements, and we provide those courses early in the morning, so it's about 7:30 to 9, so it's about half of zero period and then on in the first period. So these students have the benefit of being a college student, yet in the comfort and the surroundings of their own high school, with people that they appreciate and people that they know, their peers. So we cohort them together. As you may already know, these courses are offered entirely free under the AB 288 bill. And so 2.5 years ago, we began this project, and at every step of the way with this great partnership that we have with Citrus, and Eric is here tonight to talk a little bit about that as well. We've continually to have improved what we have in place for our students. We continue to add on to it, and tonight I'm pleased to share with you some outstanding results. We have a couple different programs. We first started with what I called an a la carte program, or we were allowing kids to pick classes and choose what they wanted to choose. And I don't know, so most teenagers may not make the best wise decisions and stick with them right in the beginning. So the a la carte package didn't work out so well, so we shifted to creating what we call a cohort model now. So we have two different models. We have a 4-year model. So we recruit students out of 8th grade to make this commitment of a 4-year program where they're taking classes throughout all 4 years. We have 2 of those programs. They're on the left here. That you'll see the class of 2021 is our first group, and this year's freshmen are the class of 2022. So we have 2 full cohorts of about 30 students each in the 4-year cohort. This year, we're able to start what we have now is called a 2-year model, and these are juniors and seniors. So we recruit our current sophomores, and they have a two-year package of classes, and so this next year we'll have 2 of those cohorts as well. So this year we also are running, thanks to our outstanding MTA president, Ann Battle, who is also a Citrus professor as well. We are able to host one a la carte class, which is our photography course. So currently we have just over 100 students in these 3 cohorts on the left. Next year we'll be growing one more additional cohort, another 3-year cohort, another 4-year cohort, and one more 2-year cohort. And then we're about half capacity right now. When we're at full capacity, we'll have a total of just over 200 students participating in this program. I want to introduce you to a couple of the kids in our program and allow their words to share with you the power and the meaningfulness of this program. Kayla Griffiths, she's a 9th grader. She's in one of our 4-year cohorts this year. And when I talked with her, she said, I asked all these students the same question: why are you in early college, and what is it? Why do you think it's gonna, or how do you believe it's gonna benefit you? She said, well, I've been college bound ever since elementary school. My mom told me I was gonna go to college, and that was an expectation in my house. But this will help me get ahead. So she already knew this was kind of a plan for her, but she's just one more step ahead and that much more assured in her future goals. This is Mia Streeter. She's a 10th grader. She's one of our first members of our cohorts. And Mia has an older sister, and her older sister and her mom are figuring out how they're paying for college right now. And so Mia is very in tune with the idea of the cost saving that it's going to benefit for her family. And she says early college will save my family a ton of money. I've learned to manage my time more wisely. And it's actually easier than I thought. When we met with the incoming 8th graders 2.5 years ago, there was a lot of trepidation for some families. Some kids didn't really know what to expect. Parents were a little bit overwhelmed. And so with the support that we've been providing as a school, and then also just with the good partnership we have with Citrus, with making sure that we have the right teachers in our classrooms teaching our kids, the outcome is that these students are rising to the challenge. They're stepping up and they're performing very well. And finally, Michael Mendoza, he's an 11th grader, and I think this is what this program is really truly designed for. Michael's going to be the first kid in his family to go to college, and his words just speak for themselves right here. So without bringing every single person in the cohort here tonight to show you, and I wish that we had an opportunity on the 11th when you come visit Monrovia High School to peek into the classes, but their courses will be done by that time we are out and about on campus. But from their words, you can see the power of this program. And with that, I'm going to allow Catherine and Eric to talk a little bit more about some of the more specific details of the program. But I just want to thank you for your continued support of this program, allowing us to run this, and the partnership that we have with Citrus. So Catherine and Eric, would you like to continue? Thank you.
Good evening, President Gilliland, board members, Dr. Trostin, and members of the cabinet and community. I'm very happy to be here tonight to talk about this wonderful, wonderful program. And we actually have some longitudinal data for you tonight. It's overwhelmingly good. So let's get moving. So, okay. All right, so here are some of our findings so far into the program. Successful programs depend on the establishment of trusting relationships. So the three of us work pretty closely together, and there is a lot of communication. That's our second bullet point. A lot of communication to make sure that this program functions well to serve our students. Kirk and I meet with his site team regularly, and we meet with Dr. Rabatoy and his team as well. So lots of communication. There are so many moving pieces, and it takes very many sets of eyes to make sure that nothing gets past us. This is really important, and I think this sets our Monrovia program apart from some of the other school districts. We have a dedicated point person at each of our institutions. So this program could not function without Eric, without Kirk and his team at the site, and without somebody at the district. That, like I said, there's so many moving pieces, and we're all making sure that they're moving together in serving our students. So that's a really important part of our program. Student selection criteria. We want to make sure that our students are successful, so we look at how they've done in the 8th grade to try and identify some factors that will predict their success as 14-year-olds in college. And you'll see the data in a little bit. We've done a really good job in choosing our students and then supporting them through the process of being a college student at 14. And then finally, I think this speaks to the original spirit of AB 288 and Holden's wishes for us to really reach out to students who are historically underrepresented in higher ed and attack those persistence factors that stop them from enrolling and persisting to degree attainment, and those are time, money, and skills. So with this program, we save them 2 years, the 2-year cohort students, we save them a full year of college. That's an incredible amount of money for their families. They don't leave college saddled with debt, which is a problem that we have across the nation. Students leaving college with so much debt, they're wondering why they went to college in the first place. And then the skills. So we provide the skills that they need to be successful, and the self-esteem that I can do well in college, even before they set foot on campus. So those are some of our findings so far through this 2.5 years. And I think you were doing this slide, right? Oh, I'm doing this one. As I mentioned, we are targeting student populations that are historically underrepresented in higher ed. Students who are struggling with poverty, our African American students, our Latino students. So we have targeted those populations, then they are well represented in the cohorts. The community impact, this is my favorite part. Each student that finishes the four-year cohort saves their families the equivalent of 2 years of a college education, including their tuition, their books, their room and board. And if you've had a child go through college, you know that that starts adding up really quickly. And so you saw a picture of Kayla Griffiths a few slides ago. She has a twin sister, and they both made it into the program. Ka-ching! So their family is saving $140,000. And we have another set of twins in this new cohort. And then if you put those 30 kids together and they graduate 4 years, they're saving their families a collective $2.1 million. Now we add the 2-year cohorts who are getting through 1 year of college, which equates to about $35,000. 30 of those kids graduating each year is over $1 million. So add those up, and we're saving our community that much in college costs with each graduating class. And Eric, Dr. Rabatoy, is going to come up here and talk about the overwhelming successful data that is now coming out of the program.
Thank you, Catherine. Good evening. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to share the success of this fantastic program. My name is Eric Rabatoy, and I'm one of the academic deans at Citrus College. I have the pleasure of working with your two hardworking administrators right here, Kirk and Catherine, on this AB 288 program. I'm going to share with you how successful your students are on the next slide, and you're going to be very impressed. I expected them to do well. They expected them to do well. The students expected them to do well, and they did well. But before I show you the slide, I want to make sure that everybody here understands that this program that we designed was designed by scratch. We did not have a model. There was no model within the state for how to run an AB 288 four-year dual enrollment program with Holden's AB 288 bill. We sat down in that conference room right over there about 2.5 years ago, and we mapped this out. And we did it out of our own heads. We thought we knew how to do it. We did pretty well. We made a few mistakes, and then we fixed those mistakes. And this program that you're running now at your school is now a model program within the state of California. Catherine, Kirk, and I have been throughout the state sharing information about this program, about how we set it up, about how we made it successful. Your students are benefiting, and 100% of the kudos goes to these two people because they are fully dedicated to make this program work. I've been in higher ed for 25 years. I've done lots of different things in higher ed at Citrus. I've been there a long time. But when I think about the things that I'm most proud of over my 25-year period, it's this program right here. And so I want to thank both Kirk and Catherine for letting me be a part of your team because this really is a fantastic program. So let's see how your students are doing. They're not just your students, they're our students. So at Citrus, we think of them as Citrus students, right? Because they are. They're our Citrus College students taking our classes on your campus. And so when we first designed the program, I remember talking to people who would question me and ask why you would possibly think bringing in 8th graders into a program, and why would you do that? Because there's no way those students could perform on par with the Citrus College students. And I thought, why wouldn't you expect them to do well? You create the right environment and you create the resources for them to be successful. They're going to be successful. So we always expected them to do well, and they have done well. In fact, they've done very well. So let's take a look at the data. One of the things that we've done, we finally have data. I like data. I'm a quantitative person, and so it's nice to design the programs, but you never really know how your students are doing until you look at the data. So this is success and retention data for your freshman and sophomore students. So on the left, in green, is the success rate, the average success rate of all of the students who have taken the AB 288 classes at Monrovia High School through the AB 288 program. Your success rate, the average success rate for the student, the Monrovia High School student enrolled in these classes is 95%. So you're better. In orange, it's not yellow, it's orange, is the average success rate for the Citrus College students as a whole. It's right around 70%. So the students enrolled in this program not only perform on par with the Citrus College students, the general population, they exceed their success rates. It's amazing data. I've never seen anything like it in the amount of time that I've been in higher ed. When we look at retention rates, your average retention rate is 96%, and the Citrus retention rate is 90%. So the students in this program are performing well, and that's because of all of the safeguards and support systems that Kirk and Catherine have put into place to make this happen. When we take a look at, I know this is kind of small, hard to see, but when we take a look at comparisons of success and retention rate by course, what we do here is give you an overview of the types of courses that students have taken. We generally provide general ed courses, IGETC, non-major specific courses like counseling. We have photography, we have speech, we have art, music, poli-sci, psychology, oceanography, Spanish, we have art history, history of rock and roll. We've got all these classes that students like. What you'll see in green are the success and retention rates of the Monrovia High School students enrolled in the AB 288 courses. And on the right-hand side are the Citrus College-wide data that we get. So any course where you see a green are courses where your students are outperforming the Citrus-wide college data. And what you'll see is that most of those boxes are green. So in Counseling 160, in Speech 101, art, music, poli-sci, psychology, you will see that the students in this program are performing better than the students at the general student population at Citrus College. I believe this is due to the selection process that Catherine works with to get the right students in the program, and the dedication that Kirk has at the high school to make sure that the support systems that are needed for students to be successful are actually there. Kirk is very involved. He's in the classrooms. He talks with our teachers. They're Citrus teachers for the most part that come to the high school, making sure that the students do well. Catherine is equally as involved in the overall design of the program. And so it's a pleasure for me to be a part of the program and to be here tonight and to share your success. This is really your success because you guys have made this happen as a board and as a school district. And you're getting quite a bit of fame throughout the state, whether you know it or not, based on this program. People know the Citrus Monrovia or the Monrovia Citrus program because it's quite a great program. So thank you for inviting me tonight. I'm hoping that this data helps provide some overview for how well the students are doing. And Catherine and Kirk and I do look at this data quite frequently as we design new courses to come up and think about changes that we need to make within the program. So thank you.
Comments or questions?
I have a comment.
Rob?
I am quick to criticize the people in Sacramento when the decisions that they make harm us, and at the same breath that I need to be quick to give the accolade when they make a decision that benefits us. And so I would like to thank Assemblymember Holden, who was the carrier of AB 288 that made it pass. The critical component in AB 288 that did not exist before because it was not unheard of for high school students to take college classes, it was the fact that people got paid to teach college structure to high school students. That was the critical component for it. And that was no small feat to make that happen. Anytime you have to spend money, it takes heavy lifting to get it done. And Assemblymember Holden did a fantastic job on that, so thank you. To you guys and all your staffs, thank you for taking this from its inception to this incredible data that we're looking at tonight of a very, very successful program. It is something that we will use, obviously, in the future for retention of our own students here in our community. As we go through with declining enrollment, we take all these programs that we do and we run them at the flagpole to champion them so that we can encourage people to keep using this wonderful resource that we call the Monrovia Unified School District and show them the benefit that they have of sending their child there. So thank you all for the idea. Thank you for the continued hard work, and congratulations to each one of our students who are in this program, and thank you to the teachers.
Any other comments? I just want to say before you guys leave there, as a school board, we were so excited to be able to sign these agreements and get this program going. And that happens periodically. We have a good program, and a few years later it's not so good, and it's just wonderful 2.5 years later to have this kind of data put on the wall. You gave me pause there, though, Principal McGinnis, when you said the 8th grade parents showed a little concern, and I thought, now if I was an 8th grade parent and I went to hear about the high school, and not only am I losing my 8th grader to high school, but I'm losing my 8th grader to college, has to be a little bit of a shock. But what a success you made of it.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
and I just do want to clarify, it was trepidation only because of the big step that they were taking.
Right.
There were some unanswered questions and transitions from elementary to middle, from middle to high, and from high school to college. They're all significant. So you think about an 8th grader going to high school and college at the same time. Yes, that comes with a little bit of worry, but we've got a great group of parents and a supportive group that have paved the path, and they're helping to answer the questions of our incoming parents who are asking some of those same questions.
Great. Thanks so much.
Definitely.
All right.
I just wanted to say thank you. This is really exciting. I've been following this program for a few years, and for me it's very important that we have a path to college for students and families that wouldn't necessarily automatically have that path. And that's very important to me, and I'm so appreciative of this opportunity for those people. And I have twins, and whether they know it or not, they are already on a pathway to college. So I'm excited not only for our community, but also for my family. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Mr. Runte.
Yes, thanks for being here, and thank you for this update. And being a new board member, I really appreciated learning more about this program. Kirk, I have a question for you, and this is really for the benefit of any 8th grade parents that are out there, maybe in the audience or listening on KGEM. The outreach that you've done to both Santa Fe and Clifton, can you talk a little bit more about that, and if there are still opportunities at this point to enroll into the program?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a number of opportunities for outreach and education for parents and students alike. We reach out to our 8th graders. We've already done that process for this coming school year. In fact, we already have a list of our cohort for next school year. But we do have a waiting list, so if numbers need to adjust or someone changes their mind or something like that, we'll extend that invitation to the folks on the waiting list. But the junior, senior, the 2-year cohort also is a very viable option for families for many reasons. You know, the 8th grader just might not be ready for the program just yet. They might not have figured out, they might not have understood exactly what they want to do. And we've found that students, when they're a little bit more mature, they've had a year or two of high school under their belt, now they're able to start to make some more informed decisions. So that's another good opportunity. But we go on a little road show to both of the middle schools. We have counselors, we have students, we have teachers, we have administrators that go and talk to all the students about the programs that we have to offer for all of our incoming 9th graders. Early college is one of those. We have a couple parent nights. We've had some informational gatherings. We hosted early this year our Monrovia High School Showcase. We had the early college table at that point, so we were able to answer questions for families at that point. And as always, the 3 of us are always available. And if anyone has any questions or anything that they want to ask more specifically, please reach out to me specifically at the high school, and we'll make sure that we answer any and all the questions.
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate all three of you.
Yeah.
Any more questions or comments? Thanks so much for being here tonight. With that, we'll move on to comprehensive school safety plans. Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, Board President. I am actually going to have Lisa Manami-Lin, our Director of Student Support Services, provide a brief update on our comprehensive school plans. So with that said, Lisa Manami-Lin.
All right, good evening, Board President Gilliland, board members, Dr. Therosian, and Cabinet. So tonight I'm going to present the comprehensive safe school plans. As you know, it's a Ed Code 32280, which discusses the systematic planning of this process of any safety concerns. It is also followed by our board policy 0450. So what exactly happens during comprehensive safe school planning? It's an action planning format where the school administration, along with the school site council, leadership teams, and or some of their, some schools use safety teams, other schools use their discipline teams. They assess the current crime status on the campus. So what is the crime data? The crime data, according to the Ed Code, is expellable offenses on campus. So none of our elementaries have had that. So you're really looking at the middle school and the high school with expellable offenses that had occurred. The administration and the school site council reviews past goals, and they align the future goals to the needs that they currently have. They discuss strategies and programs to address the goals that they select. Then the administration and the school site adopts their plan. I've included 3 samples of current goals for this year from our schools. One of them was to increase communication with parents, staff, and administration during an emergency situation. Enhance the site skill in handling emergencies at different times throughout the day. Administration and security will do monthly walkthroughs to address concerns and monitor student traffic, i.e. the maintenance, maintain safety, the student flow. Part of the plan has that the school site council and the administration both review and consult with our law enforcement, which is Monrovia Police Department. SRO, Officer Ruano, looks at each and every one of the plans. He is also giving us advice on the tactical responses to any emergencies. Monrovia Fire Department was added new this year as of January 1st, part of the new legislation. So Fire Captain Brian Patrick, he reviewed our plans and approved them. And then, of course, school site council, the president, and the leadership team, along with myself, I did review all the plans. Oh, sorry, let me put this back right here. And then, so basically, before you, you have the face sheet that the county provides that shows you the time and dates that the plans were looked at and evaluated. With that, do you have any questions or concerns for me?
I do actually have a question.
Sure.
I think that it's important that we not only consider student safety and safety on the campuses, but also safety of our children coming and going from school. I'm wondering if you or any of the school site councils, along with the Monrovia Police Department, have considered and talked about kids that go to and from school not on our buses, and have maybe considered safety corridors that can maybe be designated areas, routes on the way into different neighborhoods that the Monrovia Police Department could maybe have more patrol or more of a presence there. A corridor that is known to be safer, better lit, not dangerous alleys, stuff like that. Is that something that you and the councils and the MPD have considered?
Currently, no, but I do want to reassure you and along with the parents who are viewing tonight that the Comprehensive Safe School Plan is a living document. A living document meaning that just because it's been adopted for the 2019-20 school year, that tomorrow sites can begin to work on their plans, and Officer Rano, along with MPD, under the guidance of Dr. Jackson, we can begin to look and review the safety corridors. So that's the beauty of the way this Comprehensive School Safe Plan was written. It is a living document, so we can address and react and respond to safety corridors. So I'm going to make sure that as of tomorrow morning or tonight before I leave, I will send the site administrators safety corridor queries. So that'll be our key search word. Officer Ruano and I will begin to look at what our neighboring districts use, who uses that, and how we can implement it for our school. Because we do want to make sure that our students, part of the safety plan is ingress and egress. So how they arrive to school and how they arrive home, because we are responsible for them en route. So I will be working on that and reporting to Dr. Jackson.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that.
Comments? All right, thanks so much. We appreciate all the work that goes into those reports. Moving on to summer school dates, since Dr. Kaiser's not here, Dr. Therosian, you want to tell us when we're going to have students in our summer school?
I would love to, but I'd like to ask Dr. Collier to help unveil the summer school plan. And Dr. Collier will actually also be assisting with the following report.
Yes.
Dr. Collier.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Gilliland, board members, cabinet, members of the audience, those at home. I am happy to report that our summer school dates are, drum roll please, okay, our summer school dates, where? Oh, I do, oh, sorry about that. No, I guess there wasn't. Okay, let me go back. You should have received in your Friday packet summer school dates for the K-8 program.
Dr. Kaiser's been ill.
And so we do have on the Educational Services website a summer school page that has all of the descriptions of our programs. We're offering the same programs K-8 that we've offered in the past. And typically we have the same start date, which is the students get out on Thursday, and the next Thursday we begin summer school. And so it'll be that date. And then the K-8 programs are 20 days, and the high school program is 24 days. And so I will make certain that you get that very specific information by giving it to Ms. Huff and making sure that you have it. It's a very colorful, beautiful thing. I'm really sorry that you don't see it.
Dr. Collier, it's on the Monrovia Unified School District page.
Under the Ed Services tab, when you go to that landing page on the side, it'll say K-8 summer programs, and a very colorful representation of the programs, who they serve, and the dates and times and locations. Are there any questions?
Why don't you keep talking until I find it so that I can announce it during this? Oh, here we go.
Why don't we just wait until we can get a slide up on the thing? Let's do it next week.
We'll bring this
Next
back.
board
However,
meeting.
we can announce that on June 13th, summer school will begin.
All right.
Thank you. So in that, moving to the next piece, I guess, is, no, sorry, you said keep on going?
Yeah, you can move on to mid-year academic review if
That's
you're
what
ready.
okay, that's what
wait, Mr. Rondi has a comment.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, I have a comment. All right, thank you for the information for summer school, because I actually have had quite a few parents ask me that question as they begin to plan their summer camps and summer family vacations, and we want to ensure everyone is back for the first day of school, which is August 14th.
Right.
So I just wanted to emphasize that. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And you reminded me of something, and it just flew out of my head, so if it comes back, I'll let you know about that. Oh, the letters for the K-8 program are going to be delivered to the sites, and the parents will get them at parent-teacher conference. So in a couple weeks, they're going to have those invitations based on the measures that we have to invite students in, those that are really needing that support in specific areas. So if you talk to parents, that information is coming soon.
So summer school is by invitation only based on the need?
Yes.
It's not any sort of...
It is an intervention program, and it's specifically targeted. So the different programs we have ELA programs, we have math programs, and we also have ELD programs. And those are mostly the upper grades, where we're inviting students who are designated as long-term English learners and giving them 20 solid days of direct reading instruction to get them to be able to redesignate and improve on their LCAP score, or LPAC score, which is a much more difficult test. So.
Other questions or comments? All right, then, now you can move on.
I have a partner that I will ask to join. And I will just start by saying that all good educators respond to data. So last night we had our first
You want to speak into the microphone so the people on TV can hear?
Yes, so sorry.
Thanks.
LCAP meeting was last night, and one of the suggestions that was made by those in attendance asked for us to look at data in a different way. So right away this morning and most of the day, trying to figure out how to get that data to you in response to what the request was. And so unfortunately, it went to print a little too soon. So I have 3 pages that I'm going to ask you to replace from the PowerPoint that you have in front of you. So I will start this way, so they just go like this. And I will alert you when the page gets replaced, and I do apologize for the confusion on that. So in waiting for those. It was fan folded? Yeah. Right. So you should have one that says 3rd grade English, another one that says middle school English, and the third one says middle school math. Everybody okay? Very good. Again, thank you for your patience with this. So in looking at our Smarter Balanced data and beginning at the elementary level, we have data represented 2 ways. So this is the one that shows the percent proficient. So these are all 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. So this is the elementary comparison. And it gives you a 3-year comparison of those students that met, those students that nearly met, and those students who have not met. And we're very much interested in making sure that the blue grows and that the red reduces. And the yellow, of course, we want that to become smaller, but not at the expense of having red go bigger. So you can see that we've made progress. And in looking at this kind of data, this serves a great purpose. But when we're looking at our dashboard and we're looking further into our new accountability system, there's a different way we want to look at it. This is your first replacement page. So in looking at scale score, and again comparing with the county and the state, these students, you'll see, in 2016 were 3rd graders, follows the same group of students to the next grade level the following year, and then finally in the 2018 they were 5th. So currently these are our current 6th graders. And so looking at the comparison between Monrovia County and state, you can see that your page is different than my page. So what you'll see is this one didn't look right. So the one you're seeing has these colors, and I made them different colors, so you see that's the replacement. And so what questions do you have? I'll stop right there and say, what questions do you have about these data?
What do the numbers represent?
So the scaled score is how the state takes the raw score. So the students take a test, and they have so many questions that they get right out of so many questions they were given. And so in order to compare those scores across all the grade levels and the different, because it's computer adaptive, some kids may have more questions than others. So to make sure that we scale it so it's comparable, they turn it into a scale score. And it's very complicated. That's as simple as I can put it. Is it just, this is a way for us to compare across scores and not say, oh, well, the third grade test has a raw score of, they have 30 questions, and the fourth grade test has this many questions. So the scaled score helps us compare. Dr. Torosian, would you like to add anything else? Okay, I think I'm blowing this big time.
Does this mean that like this, for instance, this first bar that says 24-21.
Right.
Does that mean 24-21 out of 25-20?
There is no out of.
Okay.
It's a comparison. There is a maximum score for each grade level, but that does change. And it's more important, if we're looking at cohort data, which is what came up last night, is to be able to say, are these groups of students growing? And how does that growth look compared to county and state? So if you're interested, I can certainly get those data that have, so what's the highest thing you can get at each grade level, if that's of interest.
I'm going to take a stab at this.
Okay.
You asked a very good question. Let me try to answer it. Last night, the question was last night, is we've been doing this for a number of years now. And when they're going to see some information later in this package that is concerning. And the whole purpose of LCAP is to close the achievement gap. That is why it's here. It's dedicated a large sum of money across the state of California to get students who are typically underserved and to then give them dedicated instruction in order to close the achievement gap. That's the goal. When we see year by year data, what we have not seen, and what is now being presented, is where was this cohort from 3 years ago? What happened? Did they improve? Did we do anything that was right 3 years ago that made it better for their next year? Because if you just looked at the snapshot of the dashboard that you're going to see in a while, it would look like we're not improving. It would look like we're stagnant. And it's disconcerting is what it is. So looking at this data, I don't know what I guess it's just telling what the number is on the scale of 2360 to 2520. Right. But what it looks like is that cohorts of students are becoming better at their schoolwork as time moves on.
That is correct.
That is how I read this thing.
Okay.
But I don't know how, which is disconcerting to me because it's not telling me how they're getting better. It just says on this particular measurement, we have this larger graph getting it than they did a year before.
Right. We want to make sure we're keeping pace with the county, because one of the pieces about comparing to the county, more of the state, is the demographic of the state almost completely matches the demographic here in Monrovia. So at the state level, you've got this large sample, and Monrovia, you've got this small sampling. How are we faring? Are we keeping up with the growth of all kids taking this test are getting better, right, across the state? So are we growing faster than the state? Are we having grades where we slow down? That gives us more pinpointed, okay, let's take a look at, for instance, in the English language arts. If there was a difference, you can see 5th grade, we kind of level out. We're not head and shoulders above like we were for 4th grade. So that's looking at, okay, what are we going to do in 5th grade to make sure that our students are growing and we're not losing anything between 4th and 5th.
Okay, I look at this chart differently. Since there's no meaning to the score specifically, I can only assume it's for comparative purposes.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a meaning to the score in order to...
yeah, but if I look at this, it doesn't say 24-21, you're proficient. 24-21, your 3rd grade class is deficient.
Right, so that's why we go back with these 2 pieces of information
Okay,
together.
we're going to work at one chart at a time.
Okay.
Because this is difficult enough. So we have a comparative chart, which is comparing Monrovia to the county to the state.
That's correct.
Right, we're going to disregard the numbers at this point in time since they don't really have, according to this chart, a real definitive meaning at all. Right? Is that fair? Or is there a key that says 24-21 puts us at 80% or 30% or what?
So that's where we're moving into dashboard. And so this is sort of our halfway mark to get us to think in terms of scaled scores. And so you're going to see some dashboard data at the high school. But in the future, reporting out percent proficient, while it's a good measure, it's something we want to have, how the dashboard is being looked at is what is your scaled score compared to standard. So in a moment, I'll show you.
And where is, there's no standard on here.
You're right, there is not. And I do apologize, and I will put lines in if that would help. We looked at it, I'll be honest, we had them with lines. It got very confusing because it's not, there's a range, like you had asked about what was the total amount that it's out of. And so it got very confusing. So we wanted to have clean data, and we wanted to have it correct. And unfortunately, that's why you have those replacement pages, to make triple sure that this is exactly the data that's being reported on the state website. And so what I'm hearing you say is you would like to see these with a line for each grade level, because it changes. The grade level scale score that is standard changes.
Well, I'd like it to have meaning.
Right.
I mean,
understood.
Based on this is, like I said, this is just a comparison of Monrovia against the county versus the state, and doesn't really give me any useful information beyond that. So I look at this and I say, okay, in the 3rd grade, we are better than the county and the state. In the 4th grade, we are doing an even better job because the gap seems to be widening.
No, because this is a cohort.
Same group.
The 3rd grade is...
No. But clearly something has occurred because these are compared, it's a cohort, right? So this means in the 3rd grade, when we take our 3rd graders and we compare them to the 3rd graders in the county and in the state, we have a small advantage. Those same kids are compared again in the 4th grade, and our gap increases. So we have done something better than the county and state,
right,
because the gap is increasing.
Right.
Is that
That is
right?
exactly right. That's how these become useful to us. But you're right, they're a beginning, they're not an end.
Then the 5th grade, we flatten out completely.
Right. And we're commensurate with the county and state.
Right. So since these are all the same kids, the question that I look at is saying, why did we flatten out? Since the numbers have no meaning at all, I can only use it as a comparison to how we're doing against the other 2 groups. My question is, why did we do better in the 4th grade? What did we utilize that gave us, our kids, an advantage? And what did we lose when we went to the 5th grade?
Right, and those are the very same questions we're asking and looking into school by school, because again, these are averages for this cohort, all schools together. So we want to see where there are any schools that really jumped, where can we get to the best practice piece and say why, what can we do?
I imagine this is for the district as a whole, and that for each of our schools, we also have a separate chart.
Yes, sir.
And so that, of course, would be an interest to me to see if all of our schools are at the same levels, or is somebody getting left behind, or what I'd like to say is one school is really outdoing everybody else, right? So, okay. Future chart.
I appreciate all of the time and effort that you put into both of these charts, and probably at the last minute, and I appreciate all the work that you went into this. For me, this chart,
The correct one you're holding, right? Yeah.
this one,
Yeah.
doesn't do, in my opinion, it doesn't do any of the stakeholders analyzing the data any good, because as Mr. Wong said, this doesn't tell us what the proficiency is. Speaking frankly, I don't necessarily care as much about the county as I do about us, and what I want to know, while it's great that we're doing better than the county and the state, we need to know what this number is, because this number is likely 30% proficiency. Because I have seen some data, and there are some years and some years and some cohorts where the proficiency is very low, and I don't think the comparison should be with the county and the state, but it should be very clear what the scores are, so that we know how to bring those up.
So moving forward, as we get to the dashboard, you're going to get exactly what you're asking for. And that is a meaningful scale score based on, we looked at those 5x5s at our meeting yesterday. What the it's such a great story. I'll tell you later about that. But it's really, our people that were at our meeting yesterday really dug into some data in a detailed way. But it was based on scaled score from the standard. So it's very confusing. It's very different than the old API. API was simple. This has a very different take. And to be honest, the state still hasn't landed exactly on the methodology. And so we kind of want to hang back to see how they're going to land, so that we can then explain it to you all to say, here is the standard line. We're being measured of how far are we above or below the standard. And like I said, you're going to see a slide in here with some dashboard data. So,
are you saying that there is not a standard right now?
No, I'm saying there is a standard. I'm saying the state has been tossing around two different methodologies for reporting these data. So the current way it's being reported is a average distance from standard. So this whole cohort of kids, this is their average score. On the dashboard, it would turn into a color based on how much they grew and where they were in the scale of standard. And so in a minute, I'll show you, and it'll become clear, and I see consternation, and I'm sorry, but we're trying to switch over away from just percent proficient, which is not how the dashboard is built. So we need to know that, but it's not how the dashboard is built. So if, with your permission, I'll move on. Same thing with math. So these are the data that show who was proficient, who was nearly meeting, and who did not meet. And this, again, is a 3-year comparison, not the same kids. It's just our average elementary school 3 through 5.
Is it the same 3 to 5 as above?
The same 3 to 5, not as the one we were looking at. Right. This is all elementary students. So the first graph, or the first bar, represents all the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade scores from 2016.
In the state?
In our, it's just us. This is just us.
In the district?
Right.
Okay.
And then the next one is all 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade in 2017. So you're going to see that the 2/3 of those kids are the same, right? Because they moved up. But the 3rd graders are new.
what is the purpose of this chart? If you're taking 3 years of
It's seeing,
elementary,
we're seeing, are we getting more kids as a whole? Are we getting more kids to proficiency? Are we reducing the number of students that are not meeting? And if those that are in the nearly met, is the blue getting bigger? We want to see the blue getting greater.
48 to 52.
What's the middle one say? 45.60?
50, yeah, the middle one's 50.
45, 50? And what's the third column? 45 point what? 0.90. 0.90, thank you. Can't see it.
Huh. Okay.
So what I'm hearing is that what you'd like to see is by grade level for the 3 year, for each of those, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, from 2016, 2017, and 2018, right? So that we have what Amy has tried to do is provide that cohort information, but it would be valuable to also have that snapshot of time with static numbers from each grade level as opposed to all of elementary school. And we can certainly get that.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
We don't know. The question last night was, do we have any empirical data that shows that we're moving in the right direction? We wanted to take the same kids, move them along, and look at the data from their testing to see if we're having an impact positively, negatively, or neutrally among that cohort. That's what I wanted to see.
That's what these charts are for.
What they're lacking is what I'm hearing is they're lacking the mark that makes it meaningful that says this is standard.
Right, that's why I said I'm gonna take a stab at what this is supposed to be.
Right.
I get it, but I think the question that was asked last night is pretty straightforward. It's just, is it working? That's what we need to know. And the reason being is every first LCAT meeting, we get together in one way or another, in one form or another, and we put these ideas onto things on the board that we need to look at. I want to know if any of it's working, because otherwise it's an exercise in ripping apart Post-it notes, which is not that much fun, and it's not that meaningful.
I appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
That's really what I'm looking for.
So if I'm understanding this, right? So each one of these bars represents a different year, but it represents 3 grades, right, for the entire district.
Right.
Right. So in the blue section is met. So that means proficient.
Yes.
Is that the translation? Proficient.
Mm-hmm.
So 45.9% of all elementary school students were proficient in math.
That is correct.
It's last year, 2018, right?
Last year's data, yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
That number, I'm going off of memory, so this might not be good, but that number seems high.
Which number?
Percent.
The percentage of our elementary school students that are proficient in math, I don't think was at 45% for all the grades.
But that's what this test data shows, right? This is test data.
I'm making sure I'm understanding what I'm looking at here.
That's accurate. It is 45%. Yeah.
Okay.
But it is 3 grade levels, and so reducing it out will show different areas of strength, which is what we're looking for, and areas to target, right?
Right, and if I'm understanding this correctly, over the 3 years, it's declined, and I apologize, Brian.
That is correct.
It has declined. It's trending down instead of
Yes.
up. So then it gets back to what are we doing with LCAP? we really need to look at doing something differently, because whatever we're doing is not working, at least in the math category.
Right. The metrics that we have selected to say, are we successful? This is one of the major metrics. And you're right. It's telling us something that we need to do something different.
How long has it been telling us that we need to do something different?
So the reason we like to use 3 years, and really I wish we did have it broken down by grade level, because we would be able to show that it's not necessarily across the board.
Well, we've seen that data.
We have. The reason we use multiple years is to show that, that last year was a better year than the preceding year.
Well,
and this year, not last year, 2017 was an improvement over 2016, and 2018 was not, right? So when you ask, that's the right question. How long have we known that there's a problem? Well, the problem manifested itself with the scores from 2018, where the red increased and the blue decreased,
well,
right?
And I consider less than 50% of the third, fourth, and fifth graders still a problem.
We agree.
So regardless of the slight increase or decrease in these 3 years, that's still less than 50% of our third, fourth, and fifth graders are proficient in math, and that's a problem. So how long has that been the case?
Since 2005?
No, it's been the case since I've been on the board. We've always had this problem in this state. Since I've been on the board, we've been working on it for 20 years. And you start looking at the data and you say, is it that we're teaching a standard but we're testing a different standard? It's going to vary from year to year because you have different students. So the students that are measured in 2016 are different than the students that are measured in 2017, different than the students that are measured in 2018. Some classes go through and they're really strong in math. Some go through, they're strong in English. And so from one year to the next, you're going to get some variation up and down. It's the long-term trend, I think, is what we're trying to look at with LCAP and the new system that came in 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. We started measuring a different way.
Right.
And we started using different assessment methods. And we're still trying to catch up, and the state hasn't settled on how exactly we're going to do that, how we're going to measure that growth. Because you're not going to make it all up in a year, or 2 years, or 5 years. Right. You got to make sure that we're having a steady growth. Right. And so much of this big to-do about all of these numbers is how do we measure in this state and in this district, how do we measure the growth in academic rigor, the growth in academic achievement? 1 year to the next district-wide doesn't make the measure. It has to be a long-term, and right now we've only got 3 years data assessment. But what we've got to do is make sure that when we see that we're not making steady progress toward, I don't even know what the goal is. Is it 100% blue?
Yes, I mean that would be all means all is the state's battle cry. All means all.
Well, it's like no child left behind.
Right. It's just a different way of doing it.
But
here's the issue.
Steady progress is what we're aiming for.
Sorry.
And this says we're not making great progress. So what LCAP is supposed to do is look at where do we need to put money to improve those scores.
There's a big problem that I've seen over the many years of doing this. One of them is they keep changing the assessments,
right,
and the scoring, and what's good, what's not good. I mean, so the relative thing is kind of important because it's really the only constant that we have to know that our population, our student population, is almost identical to the state. So it's always a fair comparison as to how we are doing against the state based on the numbers, just purely based on the numbers, social, economic, ethnic breakdown. We're right on par. So that is, I think, why we've always used the state as a comparison, because we can tell whether we as a district are improving versus the other groups. So that's always been a good thing. But with these charts, these are not useful, because every single year we have one grade, for whatever reason, that is doing horrible or spectacular. Every single year. And all this is doing is blending them together, and so you can't tell what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. So this is not a good thing. The bottom line is, we as a district need to focus our resources on things that we can show that are improving. And going through this, I'm having a difficult time even identifying what's working and what's not working, let alone what practices we need to change, right? I mean, in order for us to make growth, we need to be able to assess what the changes we've done and whether they've been positive or negative. And every time we get these new assessments, I have no clue as to whether we're doing better or worse, because they're changing standards, they're changing goals, they're changing benchmarks, they're changing the way we're looking at this, to the point in which I'm getting numbers and I don't even know what they mean. So as a board member, I'm not really sure how we're supposed to make big picture judgments on where to invest our time and money, which consultants we should be using, which teacher of teachers we should be using, that's giving us the best answers, because this isn't it. I mean, this isn't it. I mean, I can't believe we're spending 20 minutes trying to decipher two charts.
So
I mean, that's just not good.
If I could respectfully call an audible and ask to bring this back with your feedback in ways that will be more useful to you, instead of us getting frustrated.
That works for me.
Okay.
I would suggest we do it in a study session where we got an hour just to discuss this. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
It's good with me.
Okay.
Okay. Catherine's data is not a mess. So I'm going to let her take it.
It's not that it's not a mess, and we appreciate all the work that you're putting into this.
No, you're giving me great feedback to really visualize, and it has to be a study session because it's deep.
Right.
It's very deep.
It's very complicated. Right. And we thought getting to 800 was a good thing a few years ago, and that seemed pretty simple. Now we've got, it's complicated.
Right.
Study session.
Right. So I thank you for your time to be able to do it right next time. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
So my data starts with the slide that shows, let me see here. Oh, look at all the time we saved. Here we go. So I am reporting about high school level data, and I'm so happy that Kirk McGinnis is here also. So from the dashboard, we're going to be looking at our college and career index, and that measures 5 different things. How many students are successfully passing AP, how many students are successfully taking dual enrollment, early college classes, completing their A through Gs, completing a CTE pathway, or passing their SBACs. And so you'll see that right here, we have increased by 3.2%. Yeah, this is really cool. And we're in the green. So this has been the goal, to really create programs that make it possible for our students to be more equitably college and career ready. For example, our new Digital Studies Academy, our new health pathway, developing out those pathways, and of course our early college programs. So right now we're in the green, and in the next couple of years that's going to improve tremendously, because all of that great data that we saw, that we presented about early college, those kids aren't seniors yet. And so last year's seniors, I don't think any of them had taken two early college a la carte classes. So that data has yet to bear itself on our dashboard, and it's going to be great. You'll see that our graduation is also green, and it was relatively stable, but 94.3% of the seniors at Monrovia High School last year graduated. So we are in the green.
So now we're measuring by how many came to school in October and the percentage that graduated?
Now we are looking at how many started Monrovia High School in the 9th grade and then graduated at the end of the 12th grade.
Is that graduated from Monrovia or graduated period throughout the state? Because that's
So-
always been an issue, that we lose kids from the 9th grade and we don't know where they go.
Right. So graduated somewhere, and that makes it very difficult to track in some respects, because you're right, we lose kids. Some may move, some we're not really sure. So,
if we had 400 freshmen 4 years ago,
mm-hmm.
and only 300 students graduate this year out of a senior class of 350,
mm-hmm.
we only get 75%, which is 300 out of 400.
Well, we had 94% last year, so.
Well, I'm just, and hypothetically, we have 400 start as freshmen.
Mm-hmm.
4 years later, 300 to graduate, but the senior class was only 350. Those 50 kids went somewhere else.
Right, so we're looking.
So say 100% of those, say 350 of those kids graduate
Mm-hmm.
out of a class of 350, but 400 started 4 years ago. Do we get 100% or do we, no?
No.
We get whatever 350 divided by 400 is.
Right.
Well, this begs the question. If you start off with a class at 400 as a freshman,
Mm-hmm.
and you graduate 410, how do you do that?
Extra credit.
Well, no, I'm dead serious here.
How do you calculate it? That's a really good question. I'm not sure how the state would calculate a growth in the
Because I
graduating
understand
class.
looking for the ones that are missing. I get that, but I didn't think about this until Ed was using this 350 number. We have kids moving into our district at the same time. Now, we have no control over a person that moves here in their sophomore year and they're going to go to school. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like an odd, and I know it's not how you chose it.
No.
It just seems like another odd way of collecting data, because it'll capture everything bad, but it won't capture anything good.
Right.
Well, it does. It does when your student population is going up, because this is when this topic first came up. Many years ago, we had these
I haven't seen
graduation
that one yet.
rates.
So.
We had graduation rates, and we were trying to figure out how are they calculated, because we were trying to figure out what can we do to catch the people who were falling, only to find out it wasn't the people who were falling, because we graduated 99% of one particular class, but our graduation rate was horrible. And so it came down to this: people move out, we can't track them, we don't know where they go, therefore they're counted as dropouts.
And the problem is that the state has never chose to fund the student ID number tracking of students wherever they go in the state or out of state. And so we lose that number, and that makes the percent graduated totally meaningless.
It's
Totally
why it's one
meaningless.
of those crazy deceptive numbers that has not nearly as much meaning as people would think.
I do believe, your discussion gave me a little pause to reflect on it. Those extra 10 students are going to be in the calculation where they started high school, because we have to track our kids throughout the 4 years. Whether they leave us or not, they're part of our graduation cohort data. So those kids, wherever they started, I believe they'll be calculated there as well. So, but I can get clarification for you and report back.
So here's a simple question.
I'm not sure I have a simple answer.
That's all right. That's all right. Do you know, does anybody in this district know who we lost as a ninth grader and know where every school that they're in? I'm going to tell you now what the answer is. No. It's no. Absolutely.
We need a bunch of out-of-state kids to come in.
We, just to clarify, the whole idea of going into CalPads is to have a unique number for students across the state of California now. It's just that students who move out of state, we lose them. I mean, so there are still a lot of variables. But with CalPads, there's a true intent to be able to track them. It's unfortunate, though, that sometimes when we lose students, they don't enroll elsewhere, and we lose them. They've moved away from the area, whether it's out of state or simply out of the area.
And so the state has improved. I made that comment about the state, and I'd be willing to.
I don't mean to defend the state.
Yeah.
I just want to provide that information.
Yeah, they're better than they used to be. That's right.
You know, now that I have a better understanding, the explanation that you just gave of the graduation rate, I just have to think, any district that might have put out a press conference last year that had 100% graduation rate, it's hard for me to believe that they did not have one student leave, move, or enter. So I'm just kind of baffled now.
Like
Just
I
thought
said,
I'd make that comment.
overrated state. It's an overrated number.
So these numbers can be duplicated, essentially. So if they enrolled in Arcadia in 9th grade, and then in San Francisco in 10th grade, and then Monrovia in 11th grade, and then someplace else in 12th grade, and graduated, do all 4 of those schools get credit for that one child?
So I can get confirmation for you on that. It's my belief that where they started as a 9th grader, that's the cohort that we're looking at for the graduation rate. But it is a very, we're looking at a lot of complicated data, and I think the state is really in flux in how they are looking at the data, tracking the data, and I think part of what we're seeing tonight is that flux, that fluidity in assessments and evaluations and dashboards. So with that, shall we move on to the next slide?
I think we need to move on. We do get a report from the high school as to how many people went on to college. That's a meaningful report. So this is what the state reports.
Yes.
And we just take it for what it is, I think, and
Okay.
move on.
Thank you. So these are our dropout rates at the district level, county level, and state level. So you see in 2017, as a district, we had a dropout rate of less than 1%, compared to the county at 3.2% and the state at 2.4%. Next. Okay. And this is data from a student survey. So this is self-reported data from our seniors that we've been looking at for the last few years. And I have to say the title is College-Bound Culture, but again, with that idea of flex and fluidity and early college, you'll see that high school's really changing. And so I think we're going to have to re-examine this survey, but I did want to provide the data. You'll see that 85.2% of our students report that they will be attending either a 2-year or 4-year university or college directly after high school, and others will be going into trade school, military, and work. Now, the high school as it is at Monrovia kids are going to college as they're going to high school. And with our pathways that we're creating, we're designing capstones with Citrus College where we're bringing in early college classes that are career tech ed. So we're looking at the next level of our IT classes being college courses that are provided on our campus. So kids are developing their careers, going to high school and going to college all at the same time. And yesterday we had a visit at the high school, and I was really lucky to walk through the CTE courses classrooms. And I walked into Anthony Fluker's class, and he was talking to his advanced digital video students because our grant that we have for CTE allows us to pay for students to take industry recognized certifications. So he was telling the kids, if you get this Adobe Premiere Pro certificate or Adobe Illustrator certificate, you can start making this much per hour. You can pay for your college. Instead of working in bookstore at the cafeteria, you can be an editor. Here's what you can make with these certificates. And so he was getting kids to sign up for the certification process that we're going to give them in April. So it kind of explains how much high school has changed. And so like I said, we're going to change this chart because it's kind of representing what high school used to be.
Right.
So I'm going to think about, maybe get your input on a graph that would be useful to you in displaying these new kind of high school parameters and data, because they're also changing. Any questions about this? Okay. This is the SBAC information that Amy will talk to you about later. Graduation rates, and you'll see that our graduation rate district-wide in 2018 was 89.2%. So that's inclusive of our continuation high school. And of course, our high school was 94.3%, according to the state. Okay. Reclassification, that is also data that Amy was going to cover. And so we are on quite a fluid journey of data, evaluation, assessments, and various dashboards and benchmarks and presentations. So I think to sum it up, we are examining our areas of strength. We are examining our areas of growth. We're few pats on the back here for a couple of programs and looking how we can replicate those opportunities for more students so that they are college and career ready by the time they leave our district.
Yeah, so hopefully someday we'll be able to put up there on the board how many of our kids leave high school with either the equivalent of a trade school certificate or a two-year college certificate. That's the piece that has totally changed. Those two pieces have totally changed.
Right. And next year we'll have much more of that data with the graduating class. That 2-year cohort will graduate next year, the first one.
We just have to make sure that we include that trade school part because they're doing it here instead of having to go to a trade school.
Right,
and that's a lot of money too. I mean, we're saying how much we're saving on early college, and I know we're tracking it because we have to for career technical. But how much money are we saving kids from having to go to trade school?
Right.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Have we?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so
And
much.
I wish Dr. Collier was still here so that we could tell her thank you. I know we. It might have seemed as though we came down hard on her, but I know that we were kind of just confused and wanting to sort through the data. So, Dr. Collier, if you're watching, thank you for what you have done for us tonight, and thank you, Dr. Real.
You're welcome.
All right, thanks so much. We'll move on to consent agenda. Could I have a motion?
President Gilliland, members of the board, I see before us, if we could just accept one of the items. Crown Castle Extension is on consent for technology, and what we have is a contract with a lower cost. Could we accept?
You want to pull that from consent? And
we can pull that from
consent
and ask Mr. Puvakin to explain it to us separately.
Okay, so that's, what's the item number that we're going to move?
4010. 4010.
Under technology, number 12.
I think it's 4011.
Yes.
Oh, is it
Item
4011?
12 under technology.
Okay,
18,
so
19,
we'll pull
42.
that and take it up right after consent.
Okay.
Unless we have other technology. Yeah, let's take it up right after consent. Okay, do I have a motion to
Move consent. Consent. I know, I left some of the word letters out of there. So.
As amended, right?
As amended.
Could I get a second? Any questions, comments? Ms. Huff, please take the vote.
Board Member Lockerbie?
Yes.
Board Member Travanti?
Yes.
Board Member Hammond?
Yes.
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board President Gilliland?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, we'll move on to item 3. That's 18-19-4011. Mr. Bogosian.
Good evening, President Gilliland, board members, cabinet members of the audience. The Board of Education is requested to approve a 5-year extension with Crown Castle, our fiber optic network provider that connects all our fiber optics to all our school sites. The contract allows for up to 2 5-year extensions, and the district would like to pick up that extension. The paper you had before you was $10,965. That was the monthly recurring cost. That cost was negotiated down to $9,868 monthly recurring cost. That's the new monthly cost before E-rate. After E-rate, we get about an 80% discount, so a monthly cost would be about $19.75 after E-rate.
But we would be approving a contract for $98.68 per month, and then we'll pay for part of that out of E-rate, correct?
Correct. So it would be for, the contract would be for $9,868 per month, and then we apply for E-rate for reimbursement.
Any questions or comments? Could I have a motion?
I just have one question, and it only begs this, and the E-rates are coming from the federal government, correct?
That's correct.
What happens if the federal government decides that it no longer wants to subsidize E-rates? Do we have enough money to be able to pay this program right away?
The way that the E-rate program works currently is that they decide ahead of time, usually around 3 to 5 years, and they try to commit to it on how they're going to fund it. So if you were to ask me next year how they're going to fund E-rate, I wouldn't be able to tell you because they're going through that process right now on how they're going to fund it for the next 5-year block.
But there's no guarantee that we're going to have an E-rate for
the life of this contract.
There is no guarantee. However, I know there's a provision somewhere that if E-rate goes away, we can look at other options.
But that's what Mr. Hammond is asking, is what are those other options? Is there money somewhere in the district budget to pay for this contract if E-rate goes away?
General fund would be my answer.
It would be an item that we would need to start considering.
I mean, it's almost $100,000
Yeah.
by the time you're done. I mean, it's not a little number. The reason I'm asking is we were looking at some data and monies earlier that we could be in some trouble here in the future. And given the fact that all school districts are basically they're paupers and they're sitting with their hand out waiting for somebody to fill it up, either the state or the federal government. And we know that the experience has been to particularly Ed and Brian, that over the course of their tenure here, there's been a few times when there's been a reach down and just grab what it is that you used to get. And so I'm asking, all I want to know is before I enter into a 5-year contract that's going to cost us $100,000 a year, what happens if someone changes their mind because we're relying heavily on these E-rates to subsidize what it is that we're going to be doing?
So what I could give you some historical references is that when they did decide to no longer fund mobile cell phones, they did give us a phase out. So they just basically said, of your 80% discount, it's now going to be 60%. It's now going to be 40%. So they did phase that out over time. They didn't just cut it off for us. So that's what they've done historically when they've stopped funding a service.
Can we function as a district without this contract? I mean, this is Ethernet. Does that mean we will, if we some way lost this contract, what would that mean to the district?
You wouldn't be able to function because you need some sort of fiber optic. What we would potentially do if that ever happened, we'd probably have to weigh whether or not we can function with something slower.
So basically, we're going to have to find the money out of general fund if they don't fund it. But we need the contract. We need the service.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that they over time the amount of E-rate has dropped slowly but surely. Incrementally, that the items that it covers has been reduced slowly but surely. I don't know that they would be able to cut it off completely because every school district depends on it. But as long as there is an out in our contract, right? So if they give us notice, which they will give us notice if they cut off funding, that gives us time to go back and rebid or find an extra plan.
And that was good. My next question was, do we have the poison pill in here that allows us to go back in the 5 years? If our funding mechanism is cut, can we go back in and renegotiate the contract? That was going to be my next question.
Normally you can, and I would be welcome for you to make that amendment in approving this.
Okay, so
consider it done.
That would be part of the motion. That is where I was going. Okay.
That's part of the second too.
Any other discussion or questions or comments? All right. Ms. Huff, please take the vote.
Board Member Travanti,
Yes.
Board Member Hammond,
Yes.
Board Member Wong,
Yes.
Board Member Lockerbie,
Yes.
Board President Gilliland.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, moving on to item 1108, low performing student block grant. Dr. T, who's going to handle this one?
Oh, Dr. Real will come up and tell us a little bit more about the low-performing student block grant. This is a grant every district has the opportunity to apply a plan in order to support students who are underperforming, and Dr. Real will share with us the plan we've developed.
So, as Dr. Tarosian mentioned, this is funding from the state to support students who have demonstrated the need for academic intervention based on their SBAC scores. So those are students in grades 4 through 12 because they have taken SBAC scores and have achieved a score of several combinations. 1 and 1 in English and math, 1 and 2 in either or. So they're struggling in both English and math. And they are not represented in our LCAP population. So they're not low SES, they're not homeless, and they're not EL students. So we're getting additional funding to help those students. So the requirement is we have to discuss a plan with the board and submit our application to the state. So the plan is basically to take some evidence-based, data-based strategies. And I'm sure that you're all aware that our summer camps have been wildly successful at the elementary level. Camp Read a Lot and Camp Infinity to target those students who need academic intervention in English and math. They've been very, very successful. So the plan is to use the funding to extend those programs past the end of the summer, so through the entire school year, and then extend those up into the middle and high school levels. So as well as adding attendance intervention to make sure that our students are in class to be able to learn and be successful. And I wish I could take credit for the names of these new camps, but it was Courtney Glass who came up with it. Instead of Camp Read a Lot, we are extending it to Camp Read a Lot More. And Camp Infinity will now be Camp Infinity and Beyond. So that is our plan. We are receiving approximately $200,000 to spend over this year and the next 2 academic years. So that will involve PD, extended enrichment activities, instructional materials, and so forth.
So could you just go over who all was involved in developing the plan and who else reviewed it?
Right, so we had administrators, district and site level administrators at all levels. We had instructional coaches as well, the ones who were key in developing our summer camp concept.
Great. Any other questions?
I understand that this particular grant is based on our SBAC scores. And so we can't see those until 4th grade. I know that we take the tests in about May. Is there any way that we can get data back for the summer before 4th grade? Because the earliest intervention that we can have, the better. So, and I know it takes a long time to read that data, but is it possible that we could get intervention in the summer after 3rd grade before 4th grade instead of waiting until 4th grade?
I believe we get our scores back a lot quicker now, and
in the summer after 3rd grade, they are considered 4th graders. So
that's right.
That they would qualify.
Okay.
And
Right.
we have a summer program for them anyway.
Okay.
As part of our summer, that would be the foundational Camp Read a Lot and Camp Infinity. And then Beyond and More will come through the year.
Any other questions or comments? Myself, would you please take the vote?
We need a motion.
Oh,
and a
well, we
second.
need a motion. Yeah. If somebody could move that.
I
it would
can,
be great.
so I can move that.
Oh, I can second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Could we have the vote, please?
Board Member Hammond,
Yes.
Board Member Wong,
Yes.
Board Member Lockerbie,
Yes.
Board Member Travanti,
Yes.
Board President Gilliland.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, we'll move on to Board Policy 5030, Local Wellness Policy. Dr. T.
Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, Connie Wu, has been reviewing and updating this policy. I'll hand it to her.
Yeah, good evening, Board, and good evening, Dr. Torosian. Board, as you recall that back to May 23rd, 2018, we did bring the local awareness program for board approval, updated our policy in allowance gimmick template. And the board officially adopted this policy on June 13, 2018. As a process of our full service program audit, the auditor gave us input. Because the district received federal lunch program, we are required by the program itself to add the non-discrimination statement in our local wellness policy. Without that language, we were considered not in compliance because of the language. So we increased the language, and I personally talked to the CDE, and yes, we are required to add this non-discrimination statement in our local wellness policy because we receive state funding for the full service program. So according to our normal procedure, we should submit for board for the first reading, then final adoption. Because the program audit considered that we're not in compliance with this language, so we told the auditor that we will skip the first reading and submit for board approval today so that we will be in compliance.
Do we have the authority to skip a reading?
I don't know. I don't know how we would have that.
But we could be part of consent the next time.
Yeah.
It could be part of, I mean.
Well, I need to make sure I'm understanding what Ms. Wu is saying. She's saying it needs to be approved today.
That's correct. We were told that because our policy did not have this language, we're not in compliance. But we tell the auditor that we will request a board approval for this board meeting.
So you requested that. Now, the question is, does the board have authority to do that? And I don't believe we do. So what happens if we're not in compliance for 2 more weeks?
So we will talk to the, I will go back talk to the auditor because we have a policy and the board did aware of the language, and we did the first reading, and then they will final approve for the next board meeting.
And it'll be on consent unless somebody has an objection to that.
You're wanting the reading of the non-discrimination statement that Ms. Wu put in, or the whole policy?
What the first reading is the first time the board sees this, that's the first reading. It doesn't have to be read out loud. It's just, this is the first reading tonight. And if I'm not mistaken, Ed Code says we have to have a second reading. But I may be wrong.
Can I request that the board accept the first reading of the resolution, of the amendment? And perhaps with that, Ms. Wu can go back. We'll still bring it in for consent, but in this way
We can
we will
accept
have.
the first reading, but I have a few
You might be able to
corrections.
do it as an urgency.
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
If 4/5 of the board vote to take it as an urgent matter, you can do it. But the issue is, does it affect public safety or welfare? Because that's usually the criteria for it to meet the 4/5 vote. And I don't see that as a policy to be able to adopt that, because then you could supersede it. But you'd have to make the argument that it's public safety or welfare, and I don't know how you could do that on this.
Is there a defined amount of time that we need to have after the first reading before we can approve it?
We could have
72
the, we could approve it Monday at the breakfast if that's.
Well, the point is usually because the public needs to be made aware of it. That's the whole point.
Right.
And
We have a calendared meeting on Monday morning.
yeah, but it's
Can
not.
we add this to the agenda?
Yeah, that's right. It's only Wednesday. You do have 24 hours. You got plenty of time
I
to
think
do
we
it.
can add it to Monday morning's agenda.
We can do that for the second.
But put the site of the meeting as Canyon.
Mayflower.
Mayflower.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wherever we're. That's right. Friday morning.
Monday we're at Mayflower.
That's why I look at my phone to tell me.
I guess you have to give them the right address now.
Yeah.
I guess we could do it Friday, but.
Hey, see, we got 24 hours. You got all day tomorrow to do it. We can do it on Friday too.
How urgently do you need to have this done?
I will contact the audit that the board did discuss, and we have our local protocol. So then the board will.
Well, this isn't local protocol. This is protocol dictated by the state.
Okay. So I'll definitely contact her because I don't have an answer right now.
Is it a March 1st deadline, Connie?
Actually, from per auditor, we're not in compliance because we don't have this language, which we are not aware of. So what we did is, in order to make a compliance, I told the auditor that the most immediate board meeting for approval is this meeting. So auditor aware of that, we will submit it for board approval to add the language in our policy. But I think the board, we bring to the board approval, and we have a process in the follow in order to adopt the final BPNL. I will keep her informed.
So I'm just trying, Ms. Wu, to understand the urgency to this. If the auditor doesn't get it by Monday, is she going to file a report that we're in non-compliance to the feds and we get cut off?
I don't think so.
So
it's just,
if we do it Monday morning, it's fine.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Okay, if this is from our auditor, there wasn't a finding in the audit.
Because we told them that we don't know our BP need to add this language, so they bring to our attention, and we work in compliance. Because of we say we will take action, make a correction, then they did not put in our funding.
Okay.
All right, so we can add it to the agenda for Friday morning, but I have, I think, 4 little corrections. One of them's a typo, and there's just a couple of things that I think could be stated better. But I also wanted to know, when we're messing with this policy, it talks about an assessment and a required assessment. It never says that assessment has to include the steps we will need to come into compliance, or to come into compliance.
Which pages you look at?
Well, I'm looking at page 4, and the third paragraph from the bottom starts, superintendent or designee shall assess the implementation effectiveness of this policy at least once every 3 years. And then like the next 10 paragraphs deal with the assessment. And I'm wondering if that assessment shouldn't include an action items that are needed to come into compliance.
I will take a look at.
Yeah, if you're gonna do the assessment, then and you find something in non-compliance, it would seem to me that same group should say, what does it take to fix it? Yeah, you have to have a cure period. So I would like to add that statement that assessment will include that, and then I can give you the, like it says, available to the public. It should say available to the public, and there's some things like that which don't affect the content. It's just typos and stuff. So I can give you that. All right, with those changes, is everybody okay to bring up? Well, I guess we can just go ahead and vote on it. Any other comments or questions? Not tonight. We can vote on it Friday morning, right? So it's not consent at all. It's a vote.
So you're scheduling a special meeting for Friday, to be clear.
Isn't the Canyon Oaks?
Monday. The site walk is at Canyon Oaks on Friday.
This Friday, right?
The board meeting that has been scheduled is for Monday.
Okay, so we don't schedule the boardwalk, so we'll have to schedule it for Monday, yeah.
So we're going to revisit this on Monday.
We could do it Friday. I mean, we have enough time. All we have to do is post.
I think we just well do it Friday, since we're gonna be together, just post it.
Yeah, just use Canyon as the meeting place.
And then we're at, yeah. Yeah, tonight, right, yes. We'll have to get together and, yep. All right, any other comments or questions? Then we'll table this and take it up Friday morning at Canyon
No,
Oaks.
you're not tabling it.
Oh, we're approving, yeah, we're accepting the first reading.
Yes, you're not.
Yeah, we don't have to vote to do that, though.
And then
Okay. It's the meaningful measures got me. My brain's scrambled. All right, I think we know what we're doing. All right, moving on to California School Board Association Delegate Assembly election. I guess everybody looked at that list. Is there anybody that knows any of the people on that except me? Bob Jen has been a member of Los Angeles County School Trustees for a lot of years. He's very experienced. I would trust him to be this. If you want to vote for him, I think we could vote for him. The other two I don't know, so. Are we only voting for, we can vote for two, but I would only recommend we vote for Bob.
I'm fine.
Any other comments? All right, I move that, can I move? Yeah, I'll move that we vote for Bob Jen for Delegate Assembly.
Second it.
All right, any other comments, questions? Ms. Huff, please take the vote.
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board Member Lockerbie?
Yes.
Board Member Travanti?
Yes.
Board Member Hammond?
Yes.
Board President Gilliland?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, so we'll vote for Bob.
Good for Bob.
Good for Bob. All right, pending board issues. Dr. Therosian.
President Gill and members of the board, I'd just like to call to your attention that we have 2 additional study sessions, specifically regarding our budget, one scheduled for March 13th, which is our next board meeting, and the next on May 22nd. I'd also like to call your attention to a bill that is being proposed now. It is about special education finance reform, and it is Assembly Bill 428. I'll provide you with some additional details in this week's packet, but it is for fair and consistent funding for our neediest students. And so the funding that school districts are allocated for special education students
varies from, let's say, $480 per student to $930 per student, regardless, depending upon the district. And so this bill suggests a fair and equalized funding. We would.
Where is our funding?
We would receive money into our district were this to pass. Exactly how much, I will need to talk to Ms. Wu.
Where's that money coming from?
It is definitely a state measure, but which coffer of the state, I cannot tell you.
Who
at
has
this time.
sponsored that bill?
Medina. But I'll provide you with some additional details, just so you have it. This is a topic that has been near and dear to the heart of this board, and I wanted to make sure to call it to your attention.
So that's under legislative policy, which for next steps, we don't really have any. But we really need to look at all the legislation and write up some fact sheets on how each piece of legislation affects this district, so we can give that to our legislators, and they say, no, at least they know what the effect is on us when they vote no. So if we could staff that out a little bit and decide what meeting we want to talk about that. But any information you can get us before then is great. All right, the other thing that's been talked about some is, since we're a reconfigured board, there's 2 new members out of 5, and we're working through team building norms, protocols, and every one of us, I know, is a desire for us to work as a team, work as a team with Dr. Throsian. Should we have a team building norm / protocol type get together to talk about how we do business and what our norms and protocols are and how we're going to work as a team? Anyone have any thoughts on that kind of a get together?
I think it's a good idea.
Probably take 2-3 hours on some Saturday morning, or?
I think it's a great idea. I'm open to it. Thank you.
All right, so we'll try to get that calendar put on our pending. All right. Anything else for pending board issues? Old business, Wednesday, March 13th and March 27th are our next Board of Education meetings. There's a special meeting of the Board of Education March 4th, and the sheet that we got with the itinerary for tonight included an 8:30 a.m. start time. We're going to move that meeting till 8 o'clock, so it'll be Monday, March 4th at Mayflower at 8 a.m.
With breakfast beginning at 7:30.
Breakfast at 7:30. We'll be ready to go at 8. And we'll get those superintendent goals put together in an hour. All right, there's other dates to calendar on there, board walks, open houses. Please make sure, board members, that you're signed up for the open houses and other meetings before you go home tonight. And with that, unless there's any other new business, I have the sheet.
Excuse me, sorry.
That's all right.
Before everybody leaves. I just want to update the board and the public. Back when I started our very first meeting, when I took the oath of office, I introduced the State of the Schools address as an action item, and I'm happy to report that there is background work being done. We're working with Dr. Tyrosian and setting up a committee. Mr. Hammond and I have met with Kathy, and we do have a game plan. So look for more details on that coming in the near future as things get decided on. We're looking at October as an annual event. So just wanted to update you on that.
Okay, so yeah, we'll want to make sure to get those dates on our pending board issues. All right, then we will close tonight's meeting in honor of retired Monrovia Unified School District teacher Janet Frederick, who passed away this past weekend. Janet began her tenure with MUSD when she was hired as a teacher at Monroe Elementary School in 1986. She remained at Monroe until her retirement in 2004, and she will be missed.
Ed, may I just make a comment about her? I knew her very well, and she was the epitome of what you'd want a teacher to be, a marvelous human being, and heaven is richer, and we're poor for her passing.
Thank you, Rob. With that, I will adjourn tonight's meeting.